Yo, what's up? This is Splendid Radio on Farside TV. My co-host Jeremy Scipio's intention was really to be here tonight, but that didn't. It was just one of those things, man. But much love out to Mr. Jeremy Scipio. Tonight I got a special guest. We were actually having like a B-roll conversation that probably could have went for another hour and a half because we just when we start talking, that's just how it goes. So I was like, okay, we need to hop into the double dutch. We done broke off the ice, everything. Yo, man, this is my brother Bass Heavy. I met Bass in New Orleans several years ago, and it was probably my second or third adult trip to New Orleans because my family's from Brookhaven, Mississippi, so we fly into Jackson sometimes we fly into New Orleans and then drive up from New Orleans to Brookhaven, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours or whatever. So I was pleasantly surprised. The venue was the House of Blues. We had there was a band that opened up before us, and the same conversation I had with Terrence Bass.
Yeah.
When I heard you guys, it was just the perfect storm. You guys were actually the non-pop version of Neo Soul before Neo Soul jumped off. Like really, y'all had something going. It was like rest in peace to your guitar player, man.
Yeah, we were definitely ahead of our time.
Yeah, he was like, I'll say he was like a combination of and it's crazy that I'm gonna say this, but I gotta say the two because he does sound kind of like the two, but he was like a combination of Jimi Hendrix and Ron Isley's brother. Like right, Jimmy was like the hardcore whatever, but Ron Isley's brother can go into like that melodic Jimmy kind of thing or whatever.
Which is crazy you say that because Ernie Isley learned how to play from Jimi Hendrix.
Oh wow!
Because Jimi Hendrix used to play for the Isley Brothers.
Okay.
On the Chitlin circuit, but then with IRA, you got to throw in Bob Marley.
Yeah.
Because of the dreads, and then you got to throw in Prince.
Oh yeah,
you know, all those different influences. But yeah, man, that band. I mean, the reason that he was one of the main reasons why I joined that band, man. I was freelancing as a bass player with any band that needed a bass player at that time. And I saw them, you know, a version of that band without me in it, playing at a poetry night. And to be honest, they didn't really have much going on at the bass area, and I could see the potential.
Okay.
And I told them that, you know, when I after they got off the set, I was like, oh, the guitar. Terrence was on drums, and I was like, man, y'all just missing me, straight up. You know what I'm saying? And they heard me play as well. I played before they went on for their set, and they approached me. They was like, man, you fired. And I was like, we need to get together. But there was another cat playing bass at the time, and, you know, I didn't want to step on no toes or anything like that. So as time progressed, he ended up moving on, you know what I'm saying? And then they reached out to me, like, we got space for a bass player, man. We met. Matter of fact, when we met and had our first band meeting, was my first time smoking weed. So it was a historical night indeed. I got high for the first time, and I joined the band.
They loosened bass up, you know.
Man, what? I was giggling like a schoolgirl, man. I wasn't ready.
Hey, man, no, man, and you know, I listen to that EP at least every 6 months, man. Every 6 months, and I listen to it in entirety. It's you guys remind me. So my homeboy Josh Barrett, he played bass player for Q-Tip, and he does lead vocals for the Wailers and plays guitar with the Wailers also. He had a band called, it leaves my mind, man. I'll look it up before the show's over. But your band and his band are very similar, where they're bands that really didn't get a lot of shine like that, but really good bands, man. Just like really good and solid. So to get into you a little bit, because I had to start with the House of Blues because I got to build up to who you are. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
And it's kind of like I got to start from where I met you, but I'm gonna break it down, and then we're gonna kind of make it come full circle. So my first question for you is, where were you the first time you heard hip hop, and what was the song?
Oh man, it's a tricky question, man, because it's like, I'm like at this stage, I'm so educated on hip hop. I know when hip hop started, right? But by the time I heard the first hip hop, it might have been after I heard my intro. You know what I'm saying? There was an overlap. But if I had to like genuinely, wholesomely think about the first time I actually like associated like myself listening to a rap record and rapping,
Yeah.
I gotta say Lottie Dottie.
Okay.
I gotta say Lottie Dottie. I like me and my sister had well, I mean, of course, my mom had records. We had turntables, but that was like the first record that was like ours. So yeah, I would take that record, man. And I think, the show it was Lottie Dottie on one side and it was the show on the other side. And I used to think I was a DJ, man, and I'd take that record and I would just scratch the hell out of it. I didn't even have the right kind of turntable. So I'm putting quarters on the needle to try to weigh it down, you know what I'm saying? And for some reason, I kept wanting to scratch it every time he said a bad word.
And you know the important thing about that? That's how powerful hip hop was.
Man, changed everything.
And I'm not saying that the music or the hip hop or the rap that they make right now isn't as powerful, but like you saying that, I remember having that single too. You know what I'm saying? And listening to it, and it's like I think like right now, and we're going to go into that because I got some questions that I'm going to ask you about the South and how you kind of saw the South blossom into what the South has kind of become. But it's a trip because when I heard the show, there was something that just hearing Dougie Fresh beatbox and just slick and like all of that, and it was kind of like it made you want to dance or DJ or beatbox or
it took over everything.
Yeah, there was something about that made you want to be a part of it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but I think the bigger part too was that it belonged to us.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, my mom had records for days. Luther Vandross, Earth, Wind and Fire, whatever gospel record she had, and Melba Moore, all of these like Anita Baker, all these smooth R&B records. But that was our record. You know what I'm saying? Nobody else wanted to hear that but us. You know what I'm saying? It's like it belonged to our generation. It belonged to us.
When was the first time that you saw that hip hop was a thing? And when I say thing, I mean like this, like, when hip hop first came out, I know for myself, okay, I heard I might be a little older than you, but I know that I remember Rapper's Delight and all that kind of stuff. And then I remember the early 80s, Run DMC, the Beastie Boys, LL Cool J and all that.
Yeah.
And I knew how it made me feel. Right. And I knew that it was a movement. But I'll say for me, I first realized that it was a thing probably in the late 90s when Sprite gave
it's a little earlier. It's definitely earlier.
No, so the reason I'm saying a thing is because Sprite had gave Busta Rhymes like they had given him a lot of money to do 2 commercials. And I want to say he directed the commercials, and then him and Spliff Star were in the commercials. Mm-hmm. But seeing a rapper as this character in a Sprite commercial, and it was like crazy. Like I want to say him and Spliff Star were hanging off of an 18-wheel truck kind of thing. And it was like just a movie, yeah. And it was kind of like, okay, I had seen Busta Rhymes before in person. I'm like, this is a guy. I mean, he's a rapper and everything, but this is somebody like not my peer, but like they're reaching into hip hop to bring hip hop into the corporate world. Right. And so that's when I kind of was like, okay, this is a thing. This is more than just because before then you had like small sponsorships where rappers would do would do stuff with
I remember seeing Heavy D in a yellow and green Sprite commercial. I like the Sprite and you, my dilly, you know what I'm saying? Because back when, and I had a podcast with my friends, man. We were covering the New Jack era, and you know that sprung from hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Well, that's like a you know what I'm saying, like an illegitimate baby of hip hop. Because Teddy Riley, right? Teddy Riley produced the show, right?
Well,
come out of that, Teddy Riley's the godfather of New Jack Swing. And so it's like this friendly, palatable lane of hip hop that was easy for commercials, you know, commercial companies to like latch onto. They felt safe with, and so you had Kid and Play, Heavy D, Fresh Prince. They all jumped into this commercial lane before it became more mainstream. But the era you're speaking of is when they like more risque rappers started getting these big sponsorships as well.
Yeah, and I'll say I had the flu a couple weeks ago, not COVID, but it was the flu, and you know, man, I was on my back, and I watched a lot of movies. I got Disney Plus, and I want to say I never really watched stuff on Amazon Prime, but I'm like, man, I buy so much stuff off of Amazon Prime. I'm like, man, you better get you some more value out of this. So
right.
I watched some of the house parties.
Oh yeah.
They were really good movies. They were really good movies. And
the Hudlin brothers.
Yeah. And it was interesting to see all the stars that came from that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Martin. You know what I'm saying? You
from that, yep. Spin off. Yep. Crazy. Yeah. I mean, once again, like all that sound that they were, you know, that's New Jack Swing.
Yeah.
They were dancing to all those New Jack Swing dances, you know what I'm saying? Like, once again, just the illegitimate baby of hip hop, you know. But for me, going back to your original question, the first time I recognized hip hop as a thing was the Fresh Fest. I was there. Yeah, I was, what was I? It was 84. So I was like, matter of fact, I think it took it till 85 to get to Shreveport. And I was like 9 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, like 9 years old. And I was there, man. I was there with Houdini, Run DMC, LL, everybody. I remember that like yesterday. And it was one of those things, once again, it's me and my sister. You know, my mom's just drops us off at the concert. Watch your little brother. As soon as my mom drive off, you're on your own. Pew! So I'm like there, you know what I'm saying? By myself, like experiencing that, like, this is crazy. LL came out there with that big ass radio.
Man, you know I want to say the one that they had at the Long Beach Arena, I want to say that one got pretty wild.
Now, see, that's what started West Coast gangster rap. And I was listening to Snoop on Questlove's podcast, and he was talking about that, how Long Beach, that's when the Crips and Bloods were born, like the new generation, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it was new generation, but I know that at the Long Beach Sports Arena at the Fresh Fest, oh man, that was like,
I think it was the Rolling 60s, right?
Ah man, I don't even know what it was, man. I just know that, man, Melee broke out, man, and it was just kind of like, I'll say that was my first experience of going somewhere and just seeing people just like mess it up for everybody, man.
I remember that. Yeah, that was the birth of a lot. Like I said, that put the edge in hip hop, I think. Before that, hip hop wasn't seen as dangerous.
Yeah.
You know? It wasn't really seen as dangerous. It was seen as just, you know, kids dancing around, having fun. You know what I'm saying? And when that happened, you know what I'm saying, that's when the whole little mystique of shooting up the club type hip hop. You know what I'm saying?
You know, the interesting thing about that is even the guys that were supposed to be gangster rap back in those days really wasn't, you know what I'm saying?
It was
They
like,
wasn't
we're gonna
really,
settle this, we're gonna dance against each other to fight.
yeah, they really wasn't pedal to the metal. So when did you first realize you had a passion for music?
Oh, well, my passion for music started very early. Mom's is a gospel singer. So she was one of those sought after singers that, you know, all of the churches in town, you know, asking her to come sing solos. And so wherever she went, she dragged me along. So, and being that she had a circle of musician friends, you know what I'm saying? Well, she was always practicing her songs and stuff. So I'd always be around hearing music, around pianos constantly. So I'd probably say the first time I actually touched the piano, I might have been about 7 or 8 years old, you know, sneaking on the piano at the church. And then from there, they had this store called Service Merchandise, showing my age now. It was sort of like the precursor to Best Buy.
Hey, they still got Service Merchandise.
Brown, still got Service Merchandise?
I'll say Brown, the catalogs come to the office. I want to say.
Shit, I thought it died with TG&Y, man. Well, they used to have a Service Merchandise in Shreveport, man. And they had a keyboard section. It'd be like Casio keyboards and Yamahas and all of that, you know, stacks of them. Mm-hmm. So whenever we went there often for some reason. So whenever we went there, I would disappear over there, man, and just mess around with the keyboards. And I had a great ear, so I would hear whatever song was on the radio. I'd go over there, figure it out, play it, and then put on a concert. You know, and then once again, this was intertwined with hip hop. So whatever I was playing, it might be, well, first it might be "Glamorous Life" by Sheila E.
Yeah.
Or it might be "Push It" with Salt and Pepper.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. Well, the whistle, I remember playing whistle, Just Bugging.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever the little melody was that was hot on the radio, I would figure it out. And I'd go over there to the keyboard section and bang it out. And then the crowds would, you know, whoa, look what he's playing, you know. So that spawned into my mom breaking down and buying me a keyboard. And, you know, that was my MO. I was the entertainment in the neighborhood because I was a kid that could figure anything out. So people would call me outside with a keyboard, put on little concerts.
So what was the poppin' music when you were in middle school?
Middle school for me was 1986 to 88, 89. So 89, I remember my 6th grade year, Paid in Full came out. Ooh. Everybody had that tape. And it was radio every day.
Man.
I remember that. Then I remember NWA dropping.
Okay.
I remember 2 Live Crew.
Uncle Luke.
Not supposed to be listening to that. And us knowing every word, you know, beating on the bus seats in the back of the bus saying and trying to shock the world. Also during my middle school years was the bootleg years.
Okay.
So they had a bootleg. I remember they had a bootleg man that used to go around my neighborhood selling tapes for $5. And I had already started making money in church, playing bass. So I would take my church money and buy the devil's music. So I always had the music before everybody else because I had my little church money to buy the bootleg tapes. So I had all the NWA tapes, all of Ice Cube. I remember, and this is the funniest one. I remember going to the first time I bought an actual explicit tape was DJ Quick. Quick is the name. And I went to, before that, I would go there and I would buy the safe stuff. You know, you could buy rap tapes that weren't explicit. I bought, like Fresh Prince and Kid Play tapes. Like I said, that stuff was clean. You didn't have to, you didn't need no permission. I went in there to buy DJ Quick. And they was like, nah, you can't buy this one. Your mama got to come in. My mom's was in the car. She didn't want to get out. And I was like, Ma, you got to come in so I can get this tape. She's like, what? All right. So I talked to her into coming inside. And she's like, what did you buy it anyway? Why I got to come in here? So she just so happened to just look at the tape, you know what I'm saying? And The first song on the album, you remember what it was?
Uh-uh.
First song on the album was Sweet Black Pussy.
Oh.
Look at that tape. She looked at me and she said, I better not never hear this in the house. You better always put your headphones on when you're listening to this. I was like, all right, Miles, just give me that tape. Well, you know,
she was a G for getting it, man.
Oh, she got it for me. She let me have it. You know what I'm saying? But she just was like, out because she had already, straight up though, we had already paid for it.
Oh man.
She's like, I better never hear this song. I was like, I got you, Miles. But yeah, that was my research, man. That's my godfathers, you know, Quick and Dre. I mean, I was studying them hard, not knowing it, you know, but that was like my predecessors to like show me what production was, you know.
So what was the name of your first band?
My first band, I was in 9th grade. Not too long, just started playing the bass, and it was called Avant Garde.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a baby, and there was 3 high school seniors, and we played weddings and fashion shows and backyard parties and whatever was going on around the city that they, you know, somebody wanted something as sophisticated as a little miniature jazz band. That was us.
So you went to middle school and high school in New Orleans, correct?
No.
Okay.
I went to middle school and high school in Shreveport.
Ah.
And both of those were performing arts schools.
Okay.
Yeah, that's so for me, teaching myself how to play the keyboard and serve as merchandise. I went to performing arts middle school at 10 years old and actually got classically trained at piano. And I started playing jazz my 8th grade year at piano. Then I auditioned to play piano in the performing arts high school. Fell in love with bass over the summer. Lied and said I was a bass player when I got to the high school because they had a new band director, and started playing bass from that point on.
Oh, wow.
What brought me to New Orleans was college. I graduated and I went to New Orleans to major in jazz studies at the University of New Orleans.
Wow.
And just never left.
Okay. Well, not too far off then, not too far off.
Yeah.
So in high school, what did you think your path was going to be after you graduated?
Well, I had a dual path. It was a performing arts school and it was a magnet school, right? So the magnet school thing started for me way back in 4th grade. My 4th and 5th grade year was spent in magnet school, and then magnet middle school, magnet high school. So I was always a book nerd, but at the same time, I always had a passion for music. So I played music all the time. So I just always knew I was never going to not be doing music, but I always felt like, well, I'll say I was trained to think that wasn't enough back then. And so that I had to have a regular job as well as be a musician. It just was kind of like what was ingrained in me. So I had AP math classes and AP science classes and all that stuff. So naturally they told me you're supposed to be an engineer. Now,
literally, literally.
Back then, there was no such thing as audio engineering as a major. Okay. You know, if that existed back then, I 100% would have went that route. But it didn't exist, and I found myself making up my own major because I went to UNO and I was majoring in electrical engineering and jazz studies at the same time. But back then, 100%, I always knew I was going to do something with computers. And I knew I was going to do something with music, you know, and as time progressed, the two met.
So for anybody who's watching, please don't feel like we belabored you with all this. Just I just had to lay out who Bass is, because we gonna get there where you're gonna understand, but he's just not some average, ordinary, mediocre, marginal talent. You know what I'm saying? He plays the bass, he programs drums, he's a Pro Tools engineer, he mixes, he masters, he's, you know, we gonna get into all that, but I had to, because honestly, we've been homeboys for like, you know, for a hot second, man.
Ever since that gig.
But but we never talked about all that. And you know what? I'm gonna give you your props too. because when you came out to LA and you had stayed with your family, you know, that was a really good experience for you, man.
Ah, man, we had a great time. I mean, we had gigs. My favorite part of that trip was playing in Leimert Park.
Okay.
That was cool, man. Like, you know, just it was a Malcolm X Day parade. That was cool, like soaking up the actual culture. Because I my family, like I said, I got a lot of family out there in LA, and I had been out there several times, you know, and we always used to do the tourist trip to LA, where you know you go look at the wax figures, and you go look at the stars, and whatever. But to be out there and like actually like soak up some genuine like LA culture, the in Crenshaw Malcolm X Day parade at Leimert Park, that was cool. Like that was super cool to me.
And I think the good part for you was, your family stayed in the jungle.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So you really got to see real LA. It wasn't the fluffy, what I'm saying?
Nah.
Now you may have come to LA later and experienced like the fluffy part, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But you were able to come to LA, stay in the jungle.
Funny part. So like I said, I come to LA, now this overlaps now. I would come to LA back in the 80s.
Okay.
Right after the Fresh Fest. The Jerry Curl 80s.
Yeah.
My cousins were all Crips. So they stayed on Compton Avenue, like a few blocks away from Florence.
Oh, wow.
I experienced that early. but then later I experienced the fluffy LA working with No Limit. Because we took trips out there. We stayed in Beverly Hills. We worked in the Beverly Hills studios. Just ordering food in the studio, just doing all of that. You know what I'm saying? Riding around limos.
So I'm about to get into No Limit, but I'm gonna ask you a question before we get into that. So you being from the South, Louisiana is definitely the South.
Oh yeah.
At one point, New York was hip hop.
Right.
At one point, LA was hip hop. Mm-hmm. And I really feel like the sneaker was the South. Like nobody saw the South coming, man. Nobody saw it. Like it was, and I can even recall at a point the South was kind of like a joke. You know what I'm saying? Now you had your 8-Ball and MJGs, you had your UGKs, you had your Ghetto Boys, but for the most part, those were like the elite. You know what I'm saying? And everything else coming out of the South was kind of it's what I would call regional music. To me, it wasn't palatable at all. But that doesn't mean it wasn't good, because within the region that it came from, people would, it was the hottest thing in the world. You know what I'm saying? So for you, what was it like to witness New York being a thing, West Coast being a thing, just a little sprinkle on the South, to the South flipping the whole game to where like people could make music and coming out of the West, people could make music coming out of the East, but the South really becoming this commodity. What was it like to watch that happen? And when did you first see the transition of that from where you were?
Well, I mean, I give you a little bit of a different perspective on it actually being there, right? So to me, it's three elements that made it that way. Element number one is technology. When you talk about New York and you talk about LA, you talk about the hubs of music industry technology. There were state-of-the-art studios in New York that was known for having session players. There were state-of-the-art studios in Los Angeles that was known for having session players. And I mean, if you talk about the recording industry before hip hop, those were the two cities you had to go to get music done, with the exception of Nashville. That wasn't for us. You know what I'm saying? That was for, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you have all of that technology laying around in both of those cities. And I mean, whenever something new come out, the old piece of equipment is trash. You know what I'm saying? But it's just laying around now. So you're talking about accessibility. So to me, it's only natural that LA and New York will be the first two places that kids got their hands on equipment to make music.
Mm-hmm.
which is what hip hop is. Kids making music. You know what I'm saying? In the South, we had zero access to any of those things. We could get our hands on instruments, but we couldn't get our hands on studio equipment. It just wasn't existent. Also, factor number 2, I would say, would be religion. The South is the Bible Belt, and there was always a huge restraint on like making music that wasn't considered, of God. You know what I'm saying? 9 times out of 10, if you're in the South, your entry into music was the church.
Yeah.
Because of accessibility. That's who had the instruments. The churches took all of that good benevolent offering. They bought the best instruments, the keyboards, the organs. My first bass amp was taller than me. You know what I'm saying, at the church I was playing at. And I love, the only time I could go in there and rock out was at the church. So I couldn't be at the church playing NWA. You know what I'm saying? I had to learn some John P. Key and some James Cleveland. So it took the South a while to be able to have that freedom of expression and to get the access to the equipment that was necessary to do it. But when it happened, all hell broke loose, right? Mm-hmm. And I would say for me, the first time I recognized the South as like viably competitive with all other coasts would be Outkast.
Okay.
Outkast, and Rap A Lot too. But for some reason, when I was a kid, I always associated Rap A Lot's music with the West Coast.
No, because it was gangster rap.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So even I didn't realize that was coming out of Houston until I got older.
Yeah, no, definitely was gangster rap. You know what I'm saying? Now it was definitely gangster rap.
I remember when Southern Playalistic dropped, my freshman year of college, that was an evolutionary shift to me.
Mm-hmm.
Redefinition.
So how did you meet the No Limit camp, and how did you become a part of the No Limit production team and all that kind of stuff?
Well, it all started with my bass.
All right.
Me gigging with my bass, me gigging with my band with Soul Remedy. I got a reputation, of course. My name precedes me. My name is bass. And cats coming through the show, wanting me to lay bass down on their tracks in studios. So one cat, matter of fact, this was T Rose's cousin, Jazz. He used to come to the Soul Remedy sets and approach me after one of the gigs like, hey man, I really want to get you in the studio to play on some of my stuff. And I was like, cool. So we go to a studio the next couple of days later, and I'm laying down stuff on his beats, for free, just for fun, Mm-hmm. And in the other room at that studio was Mac from No Limit. Mac was, super down to earth, to the fact that he'd even be hanging out in New Orleans, just recording at, a studio with other people hanging out. And he was he had the reputation of being like the hip hop head at No Limit.
Okay.
But they called him Mac the Camouflage Assassin, McKinley Phipps, saying, matter of fact, peace, Mac. He just called me today. He recently got out of prison because he was sentenced to 40 years in prison. But that's a whole nother story.
He was blessed to be able to call you, man.
Man, he's here, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Which, everybody that knows that story, man, is, one of the saddest things I ever heard is everybody knows he did not commit the crime that he got jail for. But just not that kind of cat. But anyway, yeah, man. So Mac and DJ Wop, which was his manager, hears me in the other room and gets my number from the cat Jazz that I was with. Mm-hmm. And they called me up and was like, yo, we heard you playing bass the other night. We want to get you to play some bass on our stuff. Like, bet, come pick me up from the dorm. Mm-hmm. I was like, I don't even have a car. And he picks me up. I play on some things. And like I said, this time I'm playing with bands, not just Soul Remedy, I'm playing with other bands. I'm used to playing for like 5 or 6 hours and getting like $75, I go in the studio with them. They ask me to play on something. It takes me 5 minutes to lay it down. It's easy, so I'm done. He's like, how much do I owe you? I'm like, man, this is not work. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you with Master P, I know you got money, so I'm going to tax his ass. I was like, give me $200. He was like, he looked at me like, cool, and then wrote me a check for $1,000.
What?
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's how this works. He's like, man, what you doing tomorrow? I was like, nothing. So I go back, do another session with him. This time I play some keys on some stuff and bass. He's like, damn, bro, I know you play keys too. I'm like, yeah, come in, check for $2,000. I was like, oh, so I took that $3,000 and bought my first equipment.
Oh, wow.
I bought a drum machine. This is all 90, this is 98, 99. I bought a drum machine, bought a sound module, bought a MIDI controller. So I started banging out, man. I was like, something about to happen. All these calls coming through, I got to get ready. So I just started making all these beats, man, And sure enough, the next time I got a call from Mac, he's like, what you doing today? I was like, nothing. He's like, it's a Saturday. He's like, I'm about to come pick you up. We going to P House. I was like, pit. I was ready. I got my cassette tape with all my beats on it. Luckily for me, it was early enough in time that people still had cassette tapes in their cars. And we ride from New Orleans to Baton Rouge, which is like a 45-minute ride. And I pop in that cassette tape, man, and he listened. He's like, damn, bro, you do beats too? I'm like, yeah. He picked out one of those beats that to be on his album. And then we make it to P House. And, what was like me being introduced to the No Limit people as a bass player was like being introduced as a bass player and a producer. Oh, wow. And the result of that trip that day was P walking up to me at the end of the night and going, hey, man, they're going to bring you back to New Orleans. Go pack your shit. We going to L.A. That was my first trip to L.A., man. In 99, worked on 3 albums at the same time. Max, World War III, Magic's White Eyes, and Master P's Only God Can Judge Me album. Played on a song with Nas on that album. Produced 2 songs, co-produced a couple of songs, got my feet wet.
Man. And so at that time, had Cash Money started to bubble at all? Or
Cash Money, so it was an overlap, right? Cash Money at that particular time wasn't national yet. Okay. They had just became national. They had just dropped 400 Degrees. But they were hot. They were hotter than No Limit in New Orleans.
Okay.
But they weren't hotter than No Limit nationwide.
So they were just regional. They were just like regional. Everybody was
they hadn't gotten to deal with Universal yet. They were coming out through a regional distributor of Southwest. But if you went to New Orleans, you didn't hear No Limit music. You only heard Cash Money everywhere in the city. But No Limit was just a bigger thing nationwide.
Okay.
Because it's because of the way No Limit was born, right? I mean, P got his start in Oakland. Mm-hmm. And he came to New Orleans and he scooped up a bunch of New Orleans artists and signed them to No Limit. But Cash Money was 100% homegrown.
Okay.
They just kind of like, they really flooded the streets with their stuff, So yeah, New Orleans, that was like the big deal.
Huh, that's interesting. I never looked at it from that perspective, and I never would have known. I would have, but both record labels and collectives were,
Nah, they made their mark. It was just the timing of, going at that time for me, it was interesting. Like I said, because No Limit was looked at as like out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. I mean, in New Orleans, like they came out of nowhere. And Cash Money had like constantly been consistently putting out
music out.
Yeah, like from bounce music, from UNLV on to, I think BG was the first of the Hot Boys to drop 95, 96. Juvenile dropped Soldier Rags. And, BG put out another. They were just constantly putting out stuff that the streets was just bumping. So it was like no surprise to anybody in New Orleans when they got the big deal. But the No Limit, P was such a hustler, you know what I'm saying? The way he got that deal with Priority, I think everybody was kind of like, who is this dude? Where did it come from? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And it just, it was a different feel. But like I said, nationwide at that time, everybody knew who No Limit was. But in New Orleans, it's like Cash Money was running it.
And so how did you end up kind of hooking up with Mannie Fresh?
Same time, right? So key figure in that is DJ Wop.
Okay.
That DJ Wop, he was the key piece. That he was the guy to pick me up from the dorm to bring me to go play the bass line with Mac, right?
Okay.
Well, DJ Wop is best friends with Manny Fresh. So that same, I want to say that same month, like maybe a week away from when Mac picked me up to bring me to P House, Wop called me, the same energy. Like, hey, what you doing tonight? I'm like, nothing. He's like, I want to introduce you to Fresh. So it's like way back in 99, I met Fresh right before I met P. And, you know, we met, you know, Wop was like, man, it's that dude I was telling you, he cold on the bass. And Fresh was like, yeah, man, I'm gonna get you to play on some shit. But it didn't happen right away because I started traveling with No Limit. He's, you know, of course he is Cash Money. And the No Limit Cash Money beef popped off. You know what I'm saying? And neither one of us had beef with each other. I didn't have beef with nobody, you know what I'm saying?
You trying to make the money.
Yeah, once it popped off, you know, it's just you would always be over here and they would always be over there and never the two met, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't the reason. I don't think that was the reason why we didn't work together. Like I said, it's just the way it happened. You know, I was busy with them. He was Manny Fresh. You know, needless to say, he was busier than anybody else in the industry at that time. And it wasn't until 2005, after he left Cash Money, and we were both in Houston because Katrina had just happened, and he just so happened to have been working in Houston anyway. It's Bayou Classic. Bayou Classic couldn't happen in New Orleans, so they brought it to Houston. Pimp C had just got out of jail. So they were working on the UGK Forever album. And everybody in the industry that was in the South was at this one studio, this one night. It was just 7303. And I got called to come over there to play for KLC, the Beats by the Pound. Yeah, he called me to come play some bass lines for some UGK beats he's putting together. And I was like, bet. I get to the studio and I pull in the gate and the first thing I see is this loud yellow Porsche. And it's Manny, of course, because that's Manny. You know what I'm saying? You see the flashiest car, it's Manny's car. And he gets out of the car, man. I hadn't seen this dude since 99. He looked at me, he said, Bass, what's up, Bass? I was like, damn, you remember me? And he's like, why don't you come by my studio and play on some shit too? I was like, I'll see you in a few. And the rest was history, man. I went there and I had a beat CD along with me. I played him some beats and he was blown away.
You graduated, man. You started out with the beat tape.
Yeah. Oh no, I tell you every time, and that's one thing I always have done. Like once I make some money off some work, I immediately step my game up on my equipment, man. I try to stay on top of that at all times.
So, being a musician, being an engineer, being a producer, what's the best advice anybody's given you since you've been on this journey?
Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Yeah, I mean, you know, you got to stay. I mean, even with Manny, man, KL, you know, with all of the OGs that I consider myself, you know, I consider my uncles. I mean, these cats, you know, they stay afloat and they're doing their thing with music, but two things that they do. A, they diversify. You can't just, you know, you can't just be just one guy, you know. So you got to be able to make money several ways. And B, you got to know how to ask for what you're worth. You know, you got to know your worth. Know your worth and stick to your guns. You know, you can't just work with everybody. You know, you got to stick to your guns and just know when to hold them and know when to fold them.
Hey, man, that's a fact, man. And the cold part about it is people smell weakness, man, and they exploit it.
Man, what? Like I said, the thing that I've encountered, and I'm pretty sure and I know they encountered, because I sat there and watched them encounter, people will try to downplay you, man.
Oh, man.
Try to make you feel like, I mean, this game is the craziest game, man, because it's one of the few games. I mean, if you're a doctor or a lawyer, you're going to always be a doctor or a lawyer, right? But when you're a musician, it's like you're either Jay-Z or a bum. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can never Like once you earn a certain level of respect, you have to continue
Yeah.
continue to earn that respect. You never get to a point where your respect is just earned and you can just rest on it, because nobody, like, it's not about what you've done, it's about what have you done lately.
You know, I heard somebody say something interesting, and they said that when someone hears a rumor about you, and like they haven't spoken to you, communicate with you, they don't even have a concept of it being factual. It's just something that they were told, and then, you know, people choose to not be into you because of that or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about it is, the person who hasn't communicated with you, that's running with the narrative, they never liked you anyway. You know what I'm saying? And they were looking.
100%. Yeah, they was waiting for opportunity.
Yeah, they was waiting for an opportunity, and that's just the coldest thing. But you know what? I thank God for allowing me to work within the entertainment industry with the Far Side, because I was able to, before I worked with them, I was able to be exposed to people in the music industry, and to just kind of executives as well as artists, and just able to observe them. And then after I became part of it, I learned how, you know, the entertainment industry is just so much smoke and mirrors, man. People will tell you anything, man. Literally, they'll tell you anything.
Oh yeah.
And matter of fact, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I was talking to them about how, you know, back in the day, man, people was throwing around $400,000, $500,000 record deals. Like, man, dude, you could have 3 or 4 songs and end up with a $400,000, $500,000, $1 million, $200,000 record deals. It was just like they were going like hotcakes. Yeah. But see, this is how the game changed up. Back then, you had these rich executives that had made money off the music industry, and it was like rap music was the Bitcoin. You know what I'm saying? Rap music was Ethereum. And so these old dudes, really, I've seen old dudes not even like rap music like that, but they had a young girlfriend and they wanted to impress the young girlfriend. And so they took this money that wasn't their money anyway, because, you know, years ago,
it was the 49er gold rush.
Yeah. And it was kind of like, okay, you have an Interscope, let's just say. And so then you have a gatekeeper. And so before they start letting the Suge Knights and, you know, black people into it and all that, you have this probably older white gatekeeper cat, and he would have access to the budget. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so the budget wasn't just a budget for 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups, 4 groups. The budget was like for a division of whatever that record label was. So let's call it urban. So you'd have a white cat who would have the budget for urban music, and then he would find somebody like a Suge Knight or somebody to kind of chip off the chips to. But see, where the game has changed, them dudes is older and smarter, man. They've made all the money that they know that they could have made off of hip hop. And so that being said, dude, you don't have those deals like that anymore. And then to get a deal for let's just say 200,000, 300,000, and let's just say you lucky enough to get a deal for $1 million. Dude, you'd have to sell about 5 of your souls, man. It will be, you'd be 360 out of the game. Like you, and that's why, you know, speaking on the South, I've heard interviews with T.I. and I've heard interviews with like Boosie. And man, I had to give them guys respect, because like with T.I., he told 21 Savage, he was like, man, because 21 Savage wanted some money. And then T.I. was like, nah, you know, I wouldn't do that to you, because like if I gave you some money, it'd probably be the last money you would see, because, you know, see, you come from a place in hip hop production being an engineer, being a musician, where publishing and stuff like that was kind of a free conversation around you. But with these little kids, with these new guys, that's almost like a hush, hush, shush, shush kind of thing or whatever. And they're not even concerned with publishing. They're not even concerned with residual income. They're not concerned with none of it. All they want is this. Is to say
this. We leaving out a big part of the conversation, right?
Okay.
The medium changed. Like royalties and mechanicals was everything to my generation because we sold those.
Yeah.
9 cents per song, per record. Yeah. Now it's streaming. They ain't worth shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, streaming, what is it, a fraction of a penny? So yeah, those guys, to these kids, that don't mean anything to them. They want what they can get right now. Yeah. And take it and run with it and stunt with it and do whatever else they can do with it so that they can build just enough fame for themselves to go sell something else.
Man.
Because and that's why those guys aren't investing in music anymore, because it's like back then they were investing in the medium. They were investing in selling CDs, which they knew they can make money back off of. This is a tangible item. Yeah. But now that you're selling digital information, which ain't worth. You're not even selling it, you're sharing it. You know what I mean? So it's like the royalty back from it is so small.
A fraction.
Yeah, that the value is just diminished exponentially.
And, and I've talked to people about like seeking out like deals, you know what I'm saying? And like to get a $500,000 deal or a $700,000 deal, you got to give up your social media. You got to give up, dude. You have to give it all up, man.
Yeah, because they're not selling your music. They're selling you. They're selling your imagery. They're selling your content.
And then they're taking your social media and they're using that to pump their other stuff that they got going on. So it's just
it's a scary conversation, man. Like you said, you're literally selling your soul.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a fact. So who was the first musician you saw that made you say, you know what, I want to do that?
Quincy Jones.
That's a good one.
Quincy Jones. Way back at the Wiz. When they called him out on the piano, he pointed, I was like, I want to be that cat. You like getting all the money.
Brown has kind of been like my beacon when it comes to the entertainment industry, like the industry part of it, not just like entertainment or whatever. And he put me on to, years ago, we were having a conversation. It might have been around like 2004, somewhere between 2004 and 2006. And I had heard the production, but I didn't know the name. And it was right when I started to really listen to YouTube. So it might have been around 2006 because we were in Santa Fe Springs. And he exposed me to Rod Temperton.
Oh.
And
greatest songwriters ever.
Oh man. And they had this thing on YouTube where it was kind of like the making of Thriller, or him working with Michael Jackson and all that kind of stuff. And to hear him talk about how he kind of came in and saved the record, because it was kind of, I guess there was another version of the record, or there was another record, and then
Michael was overzealous in trying to write all the songs himself, which he got a couple of bangers. Beat It was cool, but imagine the whole album of Beat
It. and then by Brown kind of turning me on to Rod Temperton, and then me going and doing my research on him, and then so Heat Wave was his group, and Boogie Night and like all this stuff, and I was just like, oh man,
he stole him from Heat Wave. As they say in England, he nixed him.
Nah, man, that's amazing. So tell me this: who would you say your top 3 favorite musicians are? And they don't have to be famous musicians. It could be session musicians that that or whatever.
Man, that's a vast question. I'm gonna answer that from the angle of who influenced me the most.
Okay.
So if I had to pick three musicians who influenced me the most, I'd say number one would be Stevie Wonder.
Okay.
Number two would be Nathan East, this bass player for everybody. Because when I started practicing bass, all of his records I practiced along with, and probably didn't realize till years later that he was playing on every last one of those records. Anita Baker, he started his career as Barry White's bass player.
Okay.
Played with Anita Baker, played with Michael Jackson. He played with Madonna, Phil Collins, Eric Clapton. There's tons of records. Bobby Womack. Just
okay. Now I'm feeling who he is.
You know what I'm saying? Also, for me, a third influential person. I mean, these are my. This is the DNA. The DNA that makes up my sound. I say, Stevie, Nathan, and man, it's tough. I mean, it's lots. You know what I'm saying? But if I had to say top three,
one more.
Well, I gotta go with Quincy Jones. Because that's the guy who I look to as far as how to glue everything together.
Okay.
And that's the two things I use the most when I'm creating is my bass and my keys. And then after that, I'm thinking about all of it. So I say Quincy.
Man, I miss hanging out with bass, man. We gonna have to do some a Zoom beat listen or something like that.
Hey man, look, you know how we do, bro. I was thinking about that. Matter of fact, we go back to that first trip to New Orleans. Didn't Brown go to jail that trip?
Imani.
Oh, it was Imani.
Yeah.
Which was the theme of the song I produced for y'all. Cold Busted.
Yeah. He wanted to smoke a blunt inside the House of Blues with the security guard.
So it was on the gig.
No, at the bar. They was at the bar, literally. And I'm like, man. And it was so crazy to me because it's like we were so far from legalization. It wasn't Amsterdam.
No, it was not.
And the funny thing about it was me hopping in the manager overdrive. I had talked the officer out of it, but see, they was funny style in New Orleans. And so Imani kind of had an attitude with him. And so the officer was cool with letting it slide, but his partner wasn't cool with letting it slide. And the crazy thing about it was these was plainclothes police officers, man. And how it started was like on some stuff where Imani and the security guard was smoking at the bar and the police officer said, let me hit it. And they got an attitude with the police officer. And so then they tried to play him. They tried to play him like, we're not gonna let you hit the blunt, or it was something to the effect of that. And so it was kind of like they was plainclothes police officers. Right. Homeboy asked to hit the blunt, and then when they fronted on him, that's when he turned up.
Right,
what I'm saying? Right. So yeah, but I was not able to finesse him up out of that, man. I tried. It was so cold because homeboy who actually had the interaction, he was gonna let it slide, but his partner was like, nah.
It's going down right here, right now.
Yeah, man. He was like, yeah. So yeah, that was I had a quite eventful night in New Orleans. But you know what I will say about that night? I developed my love for redfish, man, because that was part of the menu. You guys had
House of Blues got some food, man. House of Blues in New Orleans. I don't know about all the rest of the House of Blues, but the House of Blues in New Orleans will feed you.
Yeah. That was one of the main things. So moving on, what would your dream versus be, dead or alive?
Oh man. Hip hop?
No, whatever.
Ooh, anything?
Yep.
Sheesh. I had to put some thought into this. I'll say this before I give the final answer. Jay-Z came out saying nobody can stand on stage with him. and he's probably right alive. But if Jay-Z went against Tupac in the verses, Tupac would kick his ass. And that's not because I think Tupac is a better rapper. It's because I think Tupac got more hits. Think about it. Tupac's hit songs are like hymnals now. It's like gospel music.
Well, okay. Well, this is what
everybody knows every word.
But this is what I'll say to that. When Tupac passed, he became kind of like a martyr, and everything turned up so much more. Right. He was already like I remember homies that would chill with girls and listen to Tupac. Like it was like he was like like you wouldn't do that with Nipsey.
It was damn near, because like I said, he damn near singing.
Yeah.
Damn near singing and he damn near preaching. Yeah. So it's like Tupac songs, he's not a Jay-Z. Like Jay-Z is 100% God level lyricism with animal. With the double and triple entendres and the wordplay and the references, the cultural references in the songs, you know what I'm saying? It just make you be like, wow, how the hell did you piece that together? But Tupac shit is so relatable to so many different age groups, genders, you know what I'm saying, nationalities, lifestyles, socioeconomic groups, you know what I'm saying? So it's like when his songs come on, you not only rap along with it, you rap it just like them in the exact same cadence. you turn into Tupac.
So you saying Tupac against Jay-Z?
Man, Tupac would destroy Jay-Z.
Destroy Jay-Z?
Destroy.
You know what? I'll say this.
When Ambitions of a Rider comes on, I won't deny it. I'm a straight rider. You don't want to fuck with me. Got the police watching at me, but you can't do that. Now, could Jay-Z write a better verse to that song? Probably. But
no, I get it. Because we give Jay-Z credit for being like a rap billionaire. Like we give Jay-Z his credit for, he's married to
because he
Beyonce and all that. And then Tupac, he passed. And so they both, that'd be a good one.
Man, that would be, granted, like I said, it would be entertaining. It wouldn't, and I, like you said, I probably being unfair to Jay-Z, it'd be a battle, but I just think Pac would edge it out.
I got a question that might get you in trouble. I'm going to frame it in a way that's not going to get you in trouble.
Okay.
Who do you think could go up against Lil Wayne? Being from New Orleans.
Yeah, like I said, I got nothing but respect for Wayne. Like Wayne is so goddamn talented, it's ridiculous. I'm
not saying win. I'm just saying go up against Wayne.
I would like to see Wayne go against J. Cole. I think they have a similar, because to me, both of them are the sons of Jay-Z.
Okay.
Both of them borrowed their technique.
The formula.
Jay-Z.
The blueprint.
Wordplay entendre style.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? So I think J. Cole and Lil Wayne going against each other will be a very good battle.
Okay. So, what do you miss most about post-pandemic times?
Pre-pandemic?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Not having to, be paranoid about breathing. I hate masks. I wear a mask.
Mm-hmm.
I vaccinated. I need a booster. I'm as safe as I can be, and I was just having a conversation about this tonight. I haven't been breathing correctly since we had to start wearing masks. Like I've been wheezing for like a year now.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And I know I'm not a doctor. Mm-hmm. But self-diagnosing, I think it's because I don't never get proper oxygen anymore. I already got sleep apnea. You know what I'm saying? I can at least before I at least had the daytime to suck in a bunch of air, and now I'm walking around like this all the time.
Yeah,
Can't breathe. I can't breathe, man. I mean, and I don't think a lot of us can. And in that, I mean, and not to get super deep about it, but I mean, I think a lot of people are doing a bunch of stupid shit because oxygen deprivation, man. None of us are breathing. You know what I'm saying? We walking around here all day with just a fraction of the air that we're supposed to have in our lungs, man. So I mean, yeah, what do I miss about pre-pandemic world? Oxygen. I miss oxygen, bro. I miss it. I miss good clean air.
Oh well, hey man, you good, man. I could count off about 10 other things I miss, man. That would be, trivial, secular and trivial.
I was blessed by the pandemic, man. To be honest, guiltily so.
Mm-hmm.
All my job, my other hustles. I mean, of course, music number one hustle. Right now, I'm sitting in my room in my house where I can create music. It's my home studio. So that didn't really falter much. People just emailed me stuff and I mixed and, from the house. So I laid down some keys or bass lines from the house and emailed it right back. I'm a college professor now. I've been teaching in college for 5 years now. And my college classes moved online. Mm-hmm. So right here in this same room, I taught college classes, from this same camera. And then my other job, now I'm the CEO of a nonprofit organization. At the time, I was one of the instructors, which I taught 185 kids from right here in this room. I taught them beat making and audio engineering. So it's like I really, when the pandemic started, I set my ass in this chair and made as much money as probably a little bit more money than I was making before the pandemic in much easier way. So it blessed me in that way, but I mean, like the blessing and the curse, right? When I got my ass back in the gym after the pandemic, I was like hurting. Like, damn, I can't move no more. I've been sitting my fat ass in the gym for 6 months.
I gained a lot of weight, man.
What? I door dashed my ass to like a good 50 pounds.
Door dash, man. I like to cook, man, and I don't like to cook snacks, man. I like meals. You know what I'm saying?
We ordered. We tried. I mean, it was for us. It was ordering all. I mean, trying out new restaurants. It's like, oh, well, you ever had this before? Let's try this today.
You know what? I would be interested in seeing how DoorDash and Uber Eats, how their revenue increased during the pandemic.
DoorDash, Uber Eats, Amazon.
Yep, I was gonna say Amazon.
Ooh, Amazon killing it. It carried over. It carried over, right? Now we got so used to ordering shit during the pandemic from Amazon. We trained now.
You know what? I had a problem. And I'll say I had a problem because I haven't ordered anything today. And yesterday I returned 7 things yesterday. I returned 7 things that I had. And that's the cool part about Amazon. You can return it. Like, man, if you don't like it, if you're not feeling it, I would just buy stuff that just really look like, not super expensive, but just really like a good idea. But you know what though? Out of the 7 things, 2 of them were defective. 2 of them were defective. But and I just strolled straight into the biggest thing. I had to take it to the UPS store.
Yeah, UPS.
But the other things, I just walked straight into Whole Foods, man. They got a whole little kiosk, and you just go up there. You let them scan the little barcode off your phone. You give it to them, and shoot, man. Once it gets received by the Amazon warehouse, the money goes back to your car.
Right back. They make it way too easy, man.
Yeah, man. So the last question I'm going to ask you, what do you see the progression of social interaction in the next 3 years?
Well, I mean, we all hearing about this metaverse. It's kind of scary. I mean, I definitely see it's a new variant coming out every week, and then now the variants are intertwining with the other variants and making mega variants. I think they got a Deltacron now. So, I mean, those two things happening at the same time to me, just having the foresight is kind of scary, where there's constantly things that are keeping us inside, and Mark Zuckerberg is creating the metaverse at the same time. And if you're paying attention and you're looking at your social media, you're constantly seeing people with these virtual reality goggles on. It's like the hottest shit in the world now.
I'll go deeper than that. When you open up Instagram, it says Instagram powered by Meta.
Right. Instagram and Facebook.
Facebook, yeah, powered by Meta.
They're all going to be in the metaverse, right? People are already buying real estate in the metaverse.
Oh man.
And the metaverse is you got to put on the virtual reality goggles to get into it. And you're literally existing in a virtual world. You can shop there. You can do things there. You can have activities there. You can fake work out there. It's all these different things going on in the metaverse, right? And I mean, it's already been happening. It hasn't been as interactive. But I feel like the metaverse is going to make it so interactive that some people ain't going to never want to unplug.
Well, I'll say this to you, Bass, man. I tell my closest friends, I might share a little shot glass of this and a little shot glass of that on social media, but my life is dope off social media. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so that being said, it's going to take a lot for me, man, to dumb myself down to the point of a virtual reality being doper than what my actual reality is. Honestly, I talk to people that are on social media like all day, like literally monitoring all day. And it's almost like watching the news all day. Because with the news will loop after 5 minutes. And so after you've watched the news for 5 minutes, it'll loop. And then you'll get, as new news comes in, they'll give you, a sprinkle of this and a sprinkle of that. But with social media, it's like news that doesn't loop. It's just like, okay, some of it has sustenance to it. Some of it is something that could help you or that can move you forward. But like fast food, about 95% of it, man, is just
bullshit.
Yeah, man. Just whatever. But nah, man, I wanna thank you for everything, man. I really appreciate you coming to this interview. And honestly, we could have covered so much more, but I wanted to build up kind of from your humble beginnings up into the point that you were a musician, and then to the point of, being an engineer and being a producer. Last question. This is one that's kind of off. I'm going to give you so since I've done this podcast, the question I just asked you has been the last question, but I got another one for you.
Okay.
So, with the whole digital evolution and the way that the kids are making music now in their bedrooms and all that kind of stuff, how has that affected the studio engineer like yourself, with people not really being concerned about their music sounding the way that a bass heavy could make it sound versus running it through an application or running it through a filter or whatever?
In my experience, everybody thinks that's not important until they get it.
Okay.
I got, like I said, I teach kids this, and I got a couple of talented kids who have the potential to be outstanding, but they have told themselves that quality doesn't matter. Like, they rap off beat on purpose. They mix their songs distorted on purpose because they're gauging it against what they're hearing on SoundCloud, which, SoundCloud is 100%, amateurs. Mm-hmm. And so I'll be like, man, you can do better than that. Or they refuse to write their verses. They try to freestyle, and because to them, sloppy, distorted, mediocre music is the new norm. And polished, well thought out, clean, well produced music is old school.
You old. That don't matter.
Yeah.
That ain't how they doing it now. That ain't how they doing it now. You old, man.
Yeah, you know, boomer, old head. So, but those same kids, when I actually forced them to come over here, you know, to the Jedi side, and I like put a little, I'll take their songs and I fix them, and I nudge their verses so they're in time, and I clean it up and compress their kicks, and EQ the shit properly, and let them hear it back, they're blown away.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I think it's just lack of exposure.
Yeah, if you're not gonna do better until you know better.
Yeah, it's so few Jedi Knights out here that still understand the Force. You know what I'm saying? They don't even know what it tastes like. But when they taste it, oh yeah, they fucking with it for sure.
Nah, that's tight. Well, no, man, I want to thank you, Bass, man. This has been a pleasure. You know what I'm saying? I miss chopping it up with my brother, man. I'm gonna have to reach out to you. As a matter of fact, I owe Terrence an email, which I'm gonna send it to him in the next 5 minutes. And you know, thank you for hooking me up with Terrence as well as Mr. Stu.
Oh yeah, Corey, Funky Fingers.
Yeah, Mr. Funky Fingers. Yeah, he you know some musicians, boy. I say that.
Yes, indeed, man.
Yeah. So you want to give your socials?
Yeah, so I'm Bass Heavy everywhere. It's at Bass Heavy at Instagram. My website, if you want to reach me, is www.missioncontrolstudio.com. And I'm also Bass Heavy on Sound Better to book me for production gigs.
Okay. And then so you but you also you do mixing and mastering, correct?
Right. And there's also, you can book me for mixing, for mastering, instruments. You want some instruments on some stuff, some keys, some bass, some guitar.
Drum programming.
Of course, drum programming. Although these days everybody think they don't need that. So
that's right.
my lane.